So it's a joy to be with you this morning. And let's go ahead and start our time together with a time of meditation. So I invite you in this moment to just breathe into the now. And we invite that higher being that is us to come forward and to be the very presence that we exude, that we exhibit. And we sang a song a few minutes ago about "Lead me, Lord, lead me," which is so appropriate for reaching into that divinity within us and inviting it to be the guide, to lead us by the light of truth, to support us as we find that path, to illuminate the way. And so we invite that inner self, that higher power, to guide us, to lead us, to be the very first thing that shows up in every circumstance. And so in this time of meditation, we anchor our thoughts, our mind, our feelings, our emotions into that truth of who we are. We anchor it in that divine presence, and we invite it to have dominion over all of our thoughts, our words, our actions. And we breathe into all that is sacred, all that is holy. We breathe into that, and we invite it that we are the breath of Spirit, the very essence of Source, right here, right now. And so as we move into a few moments of silence, we do so with the intent of being the very presence of God in action, in the silence, in the silence. And in this moment, we are grateful. We are grateful for all that is, all that ever has been, and all that is becoming in our lives, in our experiences, in our consciousness. And we claim these things through that divinity that we are, through that Christ core, through universal consciousness and divine mind. And so it is. Amen. Well, like I said in the chat in the Zoom room, it's my honor and pleasure to be with you all this morning. And it's my honor and pleasure to be talking about that power, And I have an affirmation that I've been using this month, and it is, I am a powerful spiritual being, endowed with dominion. I take command of my thoughts, my words, and my actions. Well, that sounds good, but dominion over what? We have dominion over this physicality. The whole aspect of dominion was first introduced to us in Genesis, when it was talked about we are making, and God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth. And so God created man in his own image, and in the image God created him, male and female. And so that just reminds us that, that's where it all started. And what Charles Fillmore talked about in his Mysteries of Genesis book was that dominion was more over who we are, more over our physicality, our source, our spirit. And like I mentioned in the meditation, that lead me, Lord, by the light of truth, to seek and find the narrow way. Be my way, be my truth, be my life, my Lord, and lead me today. And when we look at that from the aspect of how we teach in unity, it's not Lord out there somewhere. It is that divinity within us. It is that presence that we are. It is that true essence that is within us and is us as we show up and be. And I spoke in a workshop a little while back, a couple months ago, and I was talking about being that very presence, stepping into the power of who I am and being that presence of spirit, of source. And what I said was, I like to think and what I work to do, what is my aspiration to do and to be, is to be that very presence. And when I walk into a room, have that aspect of me be the first thing that walks in the room. Have my divinity be what shows up first. And from that point then, to be led and guided and supported and enlightened by source, by that source spirit in my physical presence. Let that be what shows up before personality, before any words that come out, before any part of my physical being is there. And allow that to be the container. And not only the container, but allow that part of me to be what manages and guides and supports and has dominion over all of the rest of what makes me who I am today in this world. Power, and this is according to Charles Fillmore, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to change some of the words. Because as we know, Charles Fillmore, because of the era in which he lived, everything was man and his in the way he phrased. And so I like to change that because I love the inclusivity of using different words. And so what he said was man's, or our, innate control over our thoughts and feelings. It's a quickening from on high, and it must precede the realization of dominion. Ye shall receive power when the Holy Spirit comes upon you. And so that's, what he's saying there is God is all power, much like what you say at the beginning of each service. And when we know that, and when we live into the fact that, God is all power, then we know that all things are possible. Isn't that a great way to live our life? Knowing that when we come in and we live our lives in that place of source and that place of spirit, that all things are possible. Divine mind gives us our power. It gives us our power over our thoughts and ideas, and it forces, the soul. It's those are the forces that precede and what we want to show up and who we are. In the higher consciousness, this power is exercised over self and inner conditions rather than over other persons. or over the world. This is one of the places where we as a human civilization have missed the mark in what was being stated in Genesis. We read that and we think, we are the king of our globe, of the world. We are the highest and we are the best, and we dominate the animal kingdom and the kingdom of the plants and the fish and the birds. That's not what it's about. It's about us having dominion, our higher selves having dominion over that piece of us that is showing up in the moment. When we look at the 12 powers, and we talk about the 12 powers, and they're also referred to as the 12 faculties, the power faculty plays an important part in controlling the expression of the many emotions and inspirations and thoughts. It is one of those controlling pieces. And as we talk about power, I'm getting ready to start teaching a 12 powers class, and I'm going to send the information to you guys because I'm going to be doing it online. And it'll be available via Zoom, and I'll forward that, there to the community. And if anybody wants to join, you're welcome to. But one of the books that has been written, and it's written by Reverends Bill and Cher Holton and Reverend Paul Hasselbeck, it's called Power Up Your Life. And in it, they talk about the 3P formula of power. It's positive, passionate, and proactive. So when we're living into that, to be positive is to be diligent in ensuring that the words we speak are positive. It means focusing on what we're doing right. It means beholding the divine and others and looking for solutions rather than dwelling on problems. Passionate means to put energy into your words and speak your vision with boldness and authority. You can only bring your thoughts into manifestation and claim dominion over the world of appearance by speaking with passion. I love to talk about that it's stepping into. And what is another thing that we look at in the 12 powers that talks about being passionate? It's zeal. What a wonderful thing when we marry zeal and love and power together. Because we know that the power of love is that unifying, harmonizing power. And so it's going to bring together. And then when we put the zeal in there, when we put the zeal into our words and our thoughts, what we're doing is we're like adding a little jet fuel to it. And that brings it more into actualization. And then the third thing that they talk about in this book and around the 12 powers is to be proactive. To evaluate the expectations and the expressions of our words, to ensure that we are speaking as a thought leader, regardless of our area of expertise, and that we focus on our ways of moving forward and anticipate the success of our claims and our goals. What that reminds me of, and that being proactive piece, it reminds me of when Jesus said, pray in this manner, and he talked about praying from the energy and from the consciousness that it is already done. When we have dominion, we claim it, we know it, and we live into it. And so we need to focus on what that is and claim our goals, claim our intentions, claim our desires, and know that we are there. We are endowed. We have inherited that divine power. We have the power to create the appearance of monsters or miracles. And I have my choices. I remember as a child, and I would be in a situation, and I've always had a very vivid imagination. I was kind of raised as an only child, even though I had a brother. He was somewhat older than I. And I was blessed in a way because that really brought me into practicing the power of imagination. And so I have quite a good imagination. And as a child, I recognized that. I recognized that, my imagination could get the best of me. You turn the lights down low and there are certain shadows, and all of a sudden those shadows are moving and they're coming alive, and they're going to get you. But then as soon as the light comes on, the shadows vanish and disappear. And I think that's a lot right there. There's a metaphysical interpretation there. When we bring the light of spirit in, then all of those monsters disappear. But so we have the power to create the appearance, and note that key word appearance there, to create the appearance of monsters or miracles. What do you choose? I know personally, I want to create miracles, because when I am fully engaged with Source, when I'm fully living into the truth of who I am, every aspect of life comes more easily. And really, is it a miracle, or is it just us demonstrating the truth of who we are and living into that divine power of Source? You know, when we use meditation and prayer to allow our deeper self, to show up instead of personal ego, then it's there to guide, it's there to govern, it's there to direct our thoughts and our feelings, and to be in charge of our spiritual energy as it is infused into our words. And so, Jesus understood the power of the spoken word, because in Matthew 12:37 he said, "For by thy words thou shalt be justified, and by thy words thou shalt be condemned." Well, today he might say the words that you use to characterize your state of consciousness and your state of consciousness can produce self-defeating thoughts, words, and actions, or life-affirming thoughts, words, and actions. There's so much that we've had available to us forever and ever, as far as the words, the written words, the lessons, the teachings, and yet we've kind of not looked at them in certain ways. And so I invite us to be more conscious of our thoughts, of our words, and our actions, and ask ourselves, is this coming from the power of Source that is me, or is this coming from my ego nature? Okay, so how frequently do we allow ourselves to be drawn away by superficial appearances? How often do we have our focus on who we are and on the spirit of who we are, only then to realize that something's come up. All of a sudden we're not there. And what happened? Despite our understanding of spiritual practices, just as we start establishing a routine of meditation or whatever that we may bring into our life as spiritual practices, we just get going and we're locked in and we're doing it and things are going great and we're so excited because, I've gone 10 days with my meditation practice being just as I desire. I've gone 10 days with being mindful and consciousness of how my thoughts are, where they're coming from. Are they coming from my ego self, or are they coming from my true divine point, my divine nature, the essence of who I am? So we'll be going well with that. We'll be going well with our practices. And then various distractions, such as a demanding schedule or upcoming tests or appointments or commitments, they tend to divert our attention. Somebody calls and says, "Can we get together tomorrow at such and such a time?" And you think about it and you go, "Well, that's when I typically do my meditation, but okay." And then we don't reschedule the meditation. We get sidetracked. While we acknowledge the potency, the importance, the power of positive affirmations, external events like someone stealing a parking spot that you were aiming for, or a colleague taking credit for some work, can throw us off track. These human experiences that come day by day can surely just derail our good intentions. It's easy to lose focus on our spiritual journey when we're faced with such distractions. And they impact our ability to tap into that full power of consciousness. The key is to resist these distractions, to develop a personal affirmation that serves as a reminder to realign yourself when you stray off course. For instance, wherever I am, God is, and all is well. Or, I am healed, whole, and healthy. I am one in body, mind, and soul. My consciousness is greater than any fear I may encounter. Peace, be still. Be still and know. Find the one that works for you. Stay focused in your oneness. and refuse to be distracted. Live into the power of who you are. Live into the truth. That power that is there, let that be the first thing that comes up. Let your divinity be the first thing that walks into a room, so that as you're moving into that room, you are walking in as the pure presence of Source, of God. You're there to model, to demonstrate, and to be this part in action. And so I love, like I said, once again, my affirmation for this month is I am a powerful spiritual being, endowed with dominion, and I take control of my thoughts, my words, and my actions. And so I'm so happy that I've gotten to be with you today. I look forward to a time later on, maybe at some point down the road, where we do this again. I know this is my last Sunday that is currently scheduled to be with you, but it has indeed been a joy. It has indeed been a pleasure. And so now I turn the service back over to those there in the sanctuary. So be blessed, namaste, and I hope to see you and connect with you again soon. And I honor the divinity that you are, and I support you in showing up as that beloved presence in all you do.